Hey, good morning. It's Dr. Shirley. How are you today? And good afternoon to my friends in Europe and beyond. And I guess middle of the night to our friends in Australia who we have a lot on this page. So I'm happy to have you here today. As you may or may not know, if you're a first-time visitor, we do classes here 3 times a week and I do them live. A lot of times I ask you what subjects you want to learn, and sometimes I just have some things that I want to get out there and want to talk about. And today's subject is about depression, and there's a lot of different that it's pretty, pretty far reaching, really around the world. The numbers are showing about 1 in 7 people are actually in a depressive state. And this doesn't have anything to do with the virus. I don't have any recent numbers on that, but there is definitely a difference between having a situational depression, which can be, let's say if your dog, has died, if you've lost your job, if there's been a breakup, if you've been ill. These are situations that can cause a depressive situation going on or feeling in your life. But real depression is when there's more of a flat line and more of a what's called a melancholy, a lack of. We'll talk about that a little bit. So I'm going to talk today about, kind of some of the things that might, cause it, and then also some symptoms of, because maybe you do not know if this is really something you're dealing with. And then we're also going to talk about some different natural ways that you can change this within your body. Okay, you can raise up your chi, you can increase your fire. And in Chinese medicine, depression is a lack of fire. It's a lack of enthusiasm. It's a lack of drive. It's a lack of hope. Maybe a lack of purpose. I personally have not really experienced this kind of thing, so I can't speak to it, real deeply. I can speak to it in regards to other, people that I've worked with practice and things that I've learned with mind-body medicine over the years, and also, from studies of Eastern cultures and kind of how that is, taken a look at, from that perspective. But let's start at the beginning. So basically depression is when a negative thought is always going to overshadow all of the other thoughts and actions. It kind of just comes, from a negative place. You live in a state of a low mood. There might be aversion to physical activity, mental activity, even taking care of the house. I mean, a lot of times people who are experiencing, some kind of depression, are having a harder time keeping up with basic chores, maybe not interacting with children, quite so much. They're just feelings of a worthlessness, of not, really having value, maybe of not being valued. That may be the source from that as well too. So the Latin word for depression means to press down. That's what it is to be pressed down. And that's kind of how a lot of times it's looked at. So depression is just being low, being below the bar. So we may have this bar of where we consider normalcy to be, and then maybe on top of that we have hope, joy, enthusiasm, for life, and in the bottom part, we may have, low, sad, teary, melancholy, as I said earlier. So the objective is to either be at the bar or, to be above the bar. So, hey, Maggie, nice to see you. Nice to see you. So depressive, as I said, a depressive situation could be, something that happens in your life. But the thing about that, whether it's a dog dying or there's a divorce or, right now there's viruses, so maybe that can be depressive. Maybe it can be scary, but these things are not long going. It would be normal to not feel great after a marriage has ended. It would be normal of any relationship that has broken off. Maybe that's a family member, situation. That would be normal to experience that, but then we would kind of come out that the other side, maybe with new learning, maybe with a little bit more understanding. But it's when on, and actually, up to 2 years is really one of the markers that they use, that if you're not able to recover from something over a 2-year period of time, that you're kind of stuck. And the idea is that, when we are in the past, that's when we're in a depressive situation. Anxiety is more in the future. Anxiety is more, what if this happens, and what if that happens, and it's just always kind of worried about that, where depression is more like, maybe feeling bad about something that happened years ago, or maybe there's been a loss, or maybe there's been a life-changing. Nobody escapes life events. We all know that, especially those of us of a certain year. You just get to understand that life happens, and it's not always not always pretty for it, is it? So sometimes there's relapses. And when this keeps going on and on and on, that's considered to be really a depressive state. Chronic is considered 2 years, as I said. So, hey Terry, how are you? Nice to see you this morning. So this mood disorder is a persistent sadness, and as I said, there's a lot of loss of interest in things. Maybe that would be a hobby. Maybe that would be certain friends. Maybe that would be not wanting to get outside. Just not having. Maybe it's even food. A lot of times when people are depressed, they just don't even want to cook, or don't want to eat, or it just becomes, kind of a snack situation, where they're really, just not feeling, that good overall. So a depressive situation can affect how you feel inside. It can affect how your thoughts are processed, and we get into these negative thought loops. We had talked about that before. You have these neural pathways in your brain, and when they become too deep, it's almost like, I like to use the analogy of you're pulling your fingers through mud, and these are like grooves. So our mind just goes there, kind of settles in, and then we loop around and loop around and loop around and just keep having these same thoughts over and over again. And maybe we don't see an outside way to get away from ourselves, and that can be scary, right? Because it's like George Carlin used to say, no matter where you go, there you are. And that's true. We can move our location or go on a vacation, but if we're not dealing with some of our own inner turmoil, whatever that may be, then we're probably going to keep experiencing that till we get to the source of what's going on inside of our bodies. So sometimes there's relationship difficulty that can go on, and sometimes there's effect of work. You're not doing the work that you're best, or maybe you're doing work that's just crappy work and it's not suited for you. Maybe destined for something else, but you just can't get yourself there. Maybe you're thinking like, oh, well, this is it. Do you know by the age of 35 that most people think that they're with the person they're going to be relationship-wise? They are in work that they think that they're going to stay in, and it's just kind of interesting, right? Because those of us that are older than 35 kind of get that idea, like, wow, yeah, that's kind of a younger age, but that's people's perception, and it seems like we're always like just looking for this steadiness of everything to quote be okay, but really it becomes up to us to make things okay, because life is always going to happen, but it's our response to that of what's really going to make the difference. So some of the signs that go on when people are experiencing a true depression is a fatigue. It is a real fatigue. It is a real, just a tiredness, almost an exhaustive kind of thing, mentally tired, emotionally tired, and even physically tired. These things all go together. Sometimes there's sleeping, throughout the day, or napping, or maybe there's napping early evening and then up in the middle of the night. There's just this whole sleep cycle and wake cycle is just, not quite, what it would be to be normal. Not that we always have to be normal, but our bodies themselves are going to do a lot better if we go to sleep before midnight, sleep through the night, and then get up as close to the sunrise, really as possible. Now, sometimes there can be some difficulty, in concentrating, and this again is due to the neural pathways in our brain. But there'd be a hard time focusing on tasks, a hard time following through, maybe getting a little bit of physical, mental energy. You're ready to start a task and get it started, but you just don't want to go finish it, and it just becomes another should, just becomes another to do. So there just isn't that drive. You may have spurts of it, but there just isn't enough to kind of get through that. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced any of that. There's definitely a feeling of hopelessness. Okay, so hope, when there is hope, when there's present, okay, when there's power in the present, there's hope in the future. All right, and without hope, I mean, I'm not any great poet or anything, but I know there's been a lot of things written about this. Without hope, it really can become a dire situation, because even in the darkest of times, we still have hope. I think we all have hope that we are going to feel okay soon because of this quarantine. I think we have hope that our earth is going to, this is happening for good, perhaps, or we have hope that our children or our families or ourselves are going to be okay. And so when we lose a sense of hope, then there's, kind of a again, just a mental fatigue, that goes on and can just, really spiral into, some pretty dark places. There may be difficulty sleeping, as I spoke about, having a hard time falling asleep because of these thought patterns, hard time staying asleep. Number one, we're going to talk about the liver because the liver is absolutely related to your moods. Okay, so I'm going to connect the dots on that as we get through the class today. But when our liver is active, we may have trouble sleeping between 2 and 4, and we may be restless during the other times. And if we're not feeling good during the day, we sure as heck are. If we're having those thoughts in a deep, dark, of the night, that never feels good. We all would prefer, to be sleeping. And I've done a lot of videos and classes on that. If you need help, let me know, because sleep is one of the things that can turn things around for you very, very quickly. You may have appetite changes. You may find, I'm seeing a lot of people, with this virus quarantine thing going on, that are a lot of memes and jokes that people are eating all their snacks, that, their pants don't fit anymore. They're living in sweatpants, and, people are getting heavier. Well, then that's going to be causing, if you don't feel good about how you look and feel, that's going to cause a whole nother, kind of wedge of, not just being shameful, perhaps with yourself, or, feeling, that you're just, you're not handling things as well as you could be. So sometimes there's some self-loathing that goes on. Hey, good morning. Oh, hi, Jake. Hey, Habiba. Nice to see you. And thanks for that wonderful line. It makes my day. So we can have self-loathing about our, the life that we've done. And I guess the best thing I can tell you is that we can all wake up every day and decide to change our life. There's nothing that can't stop us from, learning more, especially in this age, of the internet. We can, you can learn how to fly fish online. You can learn how to do pottery or do painting. I mean, especially during this time, we can't say we don't have the time. We do, but maybe if you don't feel good emotionally, maybe you don't have the energy, to do that. But sometimes those are the things that can give us, a lot of joy, for sure. You may experiencing more anxiety. People that are depressed and anxiety, a lot of times those two things come together and are actually treated that way, which I actually don't understand, because if a person is feeling depressive, they don't automatically need an anti-anxiety medication. And if a person has an anti-anxiety or an anxiety situation going on, it doesn't mean that they need an antidepressant. And I have seen that a lot. Where someone is having anxiety and so they put them on an antidepressant. I was like, why? And I'll talk about that in a minute, because there's many, many problems that can then stem off of some of these particular medications. You may experience sexual dysfunction, and that's kind of a strong word, but it basically means it's a lack of, libido, because the nervous system is affected, as is, the brain. There just isn't an interest there. I just finished teaching a class, Healthy, Lean, and Sexy at Any Age, and we talked a lot about, sexual health and things that would increase that, and sometimes there can be just some simple things. A lot of us, when we have a partner that we want to be with, we want to be with them, and then if our body isn't quite responding to that, that can add a whole nother layer of stress, anxiety, sometimes, shame or embarrassment or whatever it is that's going on. So it's, sexual health is very real health, and it's not talked about a lot. I definitely talk about it, with my clients, because I think it's part of the glue of a relationship, and that's not just me saying that. It's just, it's certainly for myself, personally. But when a body is not feeling what it wants to feel, I mean, you might as well just, pound your fist. It's not going to turn you on. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to get to the root of what's going on with your body physically. So happy to help with that. If you have private questions, as always, send me a message. So sometimes with a medicine, let's talk about the antidepressants. We have this line, okay, this is where we are, and let's say you're feeling below the bar, okay, you are below this bar, so you're wanting to get up to the bar, so maybe, the antidepressant is going to pull you up, to the bar, but when you get here, you are never going to get there, okay? It's an impossibility, because that med is going to keep you at a flat line. It might keep you from dipping down low, but it's not going to let you experience life. You're going to be a little bit numbed to some things. You may not experience like real joy or real enthusiasm or real, happiness and contentment and excitement for the day, and waking up every day like, wow, what are we going to do today? And yes, that is a way that, that people, do live. It's a way that I live. If I worked on that, sure. If I had crappy things happen myself, yeah, we could all tell a story that would make you cry right now, right? We've all have some tough things happen in life, but it becomes up to us. It is our life and how we're going to choose to live that? Are we either going to take some action, learn some things, do some things? Sometimes even it just helps just putting a routine together. When I was having a very severe time, maybe 3.5 years ago, my sister had died. Mark and I were, at a very low point in our relationship. I had some tremendous financial business losses in another field. There was just an awful lot, going on, but I knew what I needed to do because of, my background, but it didn't make it any easier, right? It didn't make it easy to sit down and do yoga twice a day, or meditation twice a day and yoga every day and have my green drink, but it was very methodical because I knew that stuff would catch up with me, for the good, and it did, but it can take a lot of effort to do the work, and there is work, there's work involved, whether it's personal work or whether it's, taking actions for your health. So along with these medications, we also are, stressing out the liver, all right? And those of you that have been following me long enough know that any medication, so many things stress out the liver. So, and the liver is the organ of emotion, okay? That is where our emotions are held in Chinese medicine. So when our liver is stressed, we have emotion, quick to anger, easily frustrated, lack of patience, acting out, losing our temper. And then when our liver becomes weak, guess what? Not feeling low, feeling depressed, lack of hope, lack of desire, melancholic, kind of like Eeyore. Who cares? Why bother? What's the sense? What is the use? A completely low chi. So you're taking this med, but the med is making the liver weak. Get what I'm saying? So many times I cannot tell you, but a large percentage of the time, just by getting the liver strong again, I mean, life just looks completely different. I've seen it with hundreds of clients, over the years. And so we would build up the liver. So remember when an organ is stressed, it's hot, it's irritated. But then, when we calm it down, it feels better. If it's been stressed for too long, it'll pop down into a weak situation. Then in that situation, like from a natural medicine standpoint, then we want to build that back up again. So in a depressive situation, most of the time the liver is weak. As I said, irritated is, the angry part, but the weakened part is going to be a weak liver. So another thing that goes on when we take these medications is it depletes our magnesium. Magnesium has about 300 functions, but what happens when we don't have enough magnesium going on is that we're not going to sleep as solid throughout the night. We are going to experience a lot more anxiety, and I know, a lot of you experience that. I used to, myself, and right now, I just saw something the other day. They said that anxiety meds are up 35%, mostly due to the situation, in our world and the unknowing, and we just nobody knows what the heck's going to happen. It can be hard, to stay stable. When we don't have enough magnesium, our bowels may not work as well, and when they don't work as well, then there's even more toxification that goes on, inside of the body. And so these are the different sides. I'm not a medical doctor, you guys know that, but you might want to just take a look at, some of your meds, okay? I just would implore you to do that. I remember years ago, one of my girlfriends, her daughter, it was when Prozac, kind of first came out, and she said, oh, my daughter's taking Prozac, and she was only like 19. I'm like, why? Why is she taking Prozac? She goes, well, her boyfriend broke up with her, and she's like really bummed out. I'm like, ay, like who has not had their heart broken? It just happens. But I wasn't judging her, maybe I was, and I shouldn't have been, but it's just kind of like, taking a medication is not going to help the boyfriend. We all got to learn how to, what our love, is going to look like in our life. Yes, easy way to boost your liver. I will get to that, Jake. Thank you. Yes, it's actually what I'll be finishing up with, so thanks for that question. And hi, Patty, nice to see you. So some of the causes can be genetic, okay? And meaning that every one of us, just because our parents had something doesn't mean that we are going to, quote, get it, but it may be a weak link. We are genetic beings, but there's a study called epigenetics, and what that means is that we can actually change the outcome of our health, okay? It is not written in stone that if your father had prostate cancer, that you're getting prostate cancer. Your mother, had, a nervous breakdown, and you're going to have a nervous breakdown. Whatever, that is not the case. Can there be a weakened link there? Absolutely. So we want to shore up those weakened links. Like in my family, my father had heart disease, so I, take good care of my heart from a lot of angles. I take CoQ10, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying I shore that up. My mom's family is more like dementia, Alzheimer's, live very long, but at some point, the thinking doesn't go on. So then there's other things that I take for the brain. Okay, so same thing, for you, that just because there may be depressive or is in your family tree doesn't mean you can go that way. Maybe there is just a weakened liver. Maybe there is a propensity, for alcohol, which a lot of that, can be depressive. And alcohol ends up being a depressant, as you know. I mean, it certainly can feel good. I enjoy, wine maybe once or twice a week now. But when we drink too much alcohol, then our liver gets weak, okay? And then what happens? Then we feel low. Then we want to drink a little bit more. And that really starts into that whole cycle of what goes on. We may have had some trauma, and it is very, very real. And that can be emotional trauma and physical trauma, or PTSD, or trauma from school, or trauma from a war, or trauma from, there's been so much sexual abuse over the years that just doesn't get talked about. It is more now, which is wonderful, but I can't imagine what that must be like to have to to process that. And we may have some issue with certain medications causing depression. You've seen these ads here in the U.S. May cause heart attack, stroke, urinary problems, stomach, gas, bloating, indigestion, heart attack, all of these things. And so many times a side effect of the medication is a depressive nervous system. So then what happens? Oh, well, then try this medication instead. They have people, I've seen ads where they're actually saying, oh, if this antidepressant doesn't work, add this one on. Put these two together. That's going to be the way to go. You're never, ever going to be able to experience your true self, if you're medicated in that way. Now, coming off of anti-anxiety medication is something different. You absolutely want to support that. And I know some of you know that. We can support our nervous system. And then when our body feels better, talk to our doc and find out how to wean off of the med. That's really the best way to go. Now, sometimes people actually have a lack of sunlight in their life. I mean, here I live in Rochester, New York, and upstate New York, and we are the second cloudiest city in all of North America, which is kind of crazy. And I think Seattle is the first, but there's a lot of people that choose to live, Habiba's out in California. I know you have a lot of, sunny days out there, sunny days in Florida, down south. So they're going to see a lot more people with like a seasonal affective disorder, lack of sunlight, which is a very real thing here in the Northeast, and in cities where maybe it's, cloudy or there's more, pollution. I know a lot of that, of course, has changed over the last 4 months. Last year, I was in Delhi, which I think is New Delhi in India, one of the most polluted cities in the world, and also in Kathmandu, which is in Nepal. And I just feel so joyful to see that pollution is just gone because nobody's driving. So how beautiful that is. And so by that pollution being gone, it's bringing more sunlight in to these cities, which is bringing more vitamin D, which helping our immune system, blah, blah, blah. So I think there's a lot of things happening that are really, really quite beautiful. There are some sun lamps that you can buy that mimic real sunlight. Put them by your desk, put them by your room. But that seasonal effective is really, really a big thing. And we do need sun. I'll be doing some videos on this, but the sun is good for you. It drives me crazy that it's been out to all of a sudden it's some big bad monster. Okay, it's just not. You may have a hormone imbalance, and that is like super real, especially if you're getting into your 40s. Probably even early 40s, the hormone progesterone starts to drop, and as that starts to drop, we start to feel a little more emotional. Maybe we feel a little bit weepy. I know, and I felt weepy in the past. I'm like, oh my gosh, Shirley, where's Shirley? Shirley's not a weepy gal, but Shirley needed some progesterone, and you can literally put this topical progesterone on. Let me help you with it. Message me if you think you want that. I get mine on Amazon. It's pretty cheap. But that can make all the difference, in the world and changing the moods. You can put that progesterone on, and if I'm feeling like that, which is not my best self, that stuff will change my mood. I mean, within minutes. I kid you not. But it's an important component. Our hormones are very, very important, and they do need to be balanced correctly and professionally. So it's not something you just kind of do on your own. You may have nutritional deficiencies. If you are low on your B vitamins, you're going to experience anxiety. You also may be, low even on, serotonin, dopamine. These are important, kind of hormones that go through your body, but they are directly related, to how well your liver is functioning and how well your thyroid is functioning. All of this works in together. You may have too many toxics in your body, especially heavy metals. They've been known to really settle into the brain. It's one place that they settle, things like aluminum, things like mercury. I have a mouthful of mercury because fillings done in the 60s, and that's what they did, back then. But for some people, those can actually leach, into the body. So the metals are going to, make a big impact. And I highly recommend that you do some kind of heavy metal cleansing. And that's not a big deal. It's actually just course, getting some heavy metal detox and maybe just adding that into your supplements just for 2 weeks a year. That's what I do, because I know, as I said, with my mom having Alzheimer's, I'm like, okay, well, maybe my metals are going there, as well. So, hey, how are you, Gail? Hey, Kara, nice to see you. Hi, Gail. So with these metals that are storing in there, we want to pull them out. Okay, metals will store in your body fat as well. That's a whole other class. But when we have too many metals, our body's going to hold on to more fat. So it's going to make you feel better. A lot of times we can also be depressed about how we look and how we feel. And again, shame and self-loathing in relation, to our body and how we look, and kind of that desire for, for more, to have more, which of course takes work, both, the inner work in your brain, really where most of it is in our mind and kind of who we are, and then the physical work to actually be disciplined enough to carry through, to see enough for those changes. Our diet absolutely has effect on how we're feeling. There are foods that are going to be uplifters, and those are going to be your foods that are live. And you hear me talk about live foods: fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. These are feeding your body at the cellular level. When we have too many processed foods and foods with additives and foods with dyes and foods that are just not alive, or too many Dunkin' Donuts, whatever that is, those are considered dead foods. Those are going to have a big effect on how you feel. We may think that we want a piece of cake or this or that because that's going to give us a temporary, oh, that made me feel good. But if you can't handle that, meaning if you can't eat that cake with joy, you might want to think about having it. I mean, I don't eat very many sweets, but if I do, I'm just going to totally enjoy it. I'm not going to feel like, oh, what'd you do that for, Shirley? It's like, no, I'm just going to enjoy it, because you do more damage to yourself and your self-esteem and your sense of self when we are eating things, maybe with, oh, I can't resist it, or oh, it's someone's birthday or whatever, and then you're beating yourself up about it. Most, as I've said before, most good health is a result of a lot of good decisions over a period of time. One piece of cake's not going to make you sick and fat, and one green drink's not going to make you healthy and well. It really is a combination of things, and we all have to find our own way. So part of the work that I with you is to offer some solutions that you can start to make some changes. You don't have to do everything all at once. I just tell people, if you can do a couple new things, even a couple new things every week, like I have a lot of people drinking lemon water, maybe it's beet. I talked about, we did intermittent fasting in this last class that I just taught, so I've got some students that are working on that right now, because weight loss is important for most of us. So as I said before, the blockage of the energy needed for the mood, is we have a chi running through our body. Those are energies, and you may or may not be familiar with chakras. I have a mild education in them, from studies in India, but I'm not an expert in that, so I won't go on too much. But suffice it to say that these swirling energy balls that we have that go up and down our spine can become blocked, and kind of a blocked chi. And a lot of times that's what meditation and yoga will release a lot of that energy. And so when we release that energy, then we have a lot more euphoria. I know for myself, in the early days of the virus, I was just feeling the weight of the world. Every time I sat on my yoga mat, I would cry, and that's not me, but it was energy that was coming up, and I knew it had to be moved. And so sometimes it's just a lack of stagnant energy that is in your body that physically needs to be moved. And that doesn't have to be yoga. It can be walking, it can be Zumba, it can be gardening, it could just doing anything. But when we physically move our body, then the energy is going to change. Now, this doesn't change what's going on in our life, but our changes our perspective. And really, isn't life just how we are looking at things? It's what our perspective is. It's why something can happen. And I have so many people I follow online like, oh my God, this is such a beautiful thing. Look at I saw some jellyfish on the canals in Venice. There's a friend of mine that lives there, and then I have friends in India, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can see the Himalayas from India for the first time in 30 years. So there's all these, a lot of times people see all these beautiful things going on, and other people are like, oh my God, we're going to die, and there are real things. People have lost jobs, and there's not health care, and I'm not trying to minimize that. I'm just saying there's always going to be a different perspective. And nonetheless, this is where we are today, right? This is what's going on in our world. So we all have to decide every day how we're going to be in the world today, and then also how do we want to be in the world, when we pass through this period of time. So some of the things that we also want to talk about is, sometimes we don't feel purposeful or meaning in our life, or maybe we are in, different times of our life where we're not, maybe we're doing the wrong thing. And I'm going to say wrong because we can never be wrong for where we are, but maybe you could be someplace better. Maybe your relationship could use, some work. Maybe you could be doing work that made you excited and made you thrilled, okay? And that doesn't happen overnight. We don't decide that today, Saturday, and then, go Monday, start getting totally fulfilled. But if we're not excited about the work that we are doing in the world, and that doesn't matter what kind of work. I've been in airports and you see men that are 60, 70 years old and they're down on their knees and their shoes shining, and they're happy, they're whistling, they're like the best shoe shiners, in the world. Or I've, been in, in Laos, and, these people you would think would be so, poor, and there's grandmas and there's little kids and they're living in these little shacks with 7 or 8 people, and they're sweet and they're singing, and the light of them, and so there's just a lot of joy that can go on in the world too. And so I just this is about being happy. This is about making those choices to feel better, or to do more, and to be excited about what you may be choosing to do, so that it does give you joy, so you do wake up. I know for me, I actually thank you for watching my classes, because these classes are helping me. I love to teach. And I teased Mark. I said, well, now I get everything off on my video classes and I don't talk quite as much. And he says, Shirley, I just don't agree. So it's kind of funny. So when our chi gets stuck in our body, as we were talking about, our emotions get stuck, we can experience fear, we can experience anger, and we can experience grief. All of these emotions can be going on. A couple of years ago when I was in India, I went to go see a Swami. If you ever want to watch an interesting video, I have a YouTube channel, and I did this video. It's been watched like so much, about my visit to the Swami, which is just really, really crazy. And there was some body work, good energy blockage technique is what he did, and it just like totally changed my life in the 2 hours that I spent with him. But that was I had a blockage in my body that, who knows, maybe it had been there forever, but it was really, really something. So we talked about the weak liver. Weak liver is a lack of fire, a lack of enthusiasm, and we are just we're low and we're down, so we want to build that up. Signs of a weakened liver are depression and then sluggishness, especially in the morning. So if you wake up in the morning and you're really like, okay, oh geez, here we go again. All right, and you're kind of shuffling off to the coffee pot. Nothing wrong with the coffee, because the coffee is actually a bitter, and the bitter herbs actually help the liver. So coffee is actually going to be something that's good for you, but your body may really crave it because it's really needing some attention there. Medications, as we said, can stress the liver, and then even things like cleaning, alcohol, this can all make the liver weak. So we want to build up the liver, and one of the best ways to work with that, there's a formula. There's 2 different formulas. One is called, I have to think of this, I'm sorry, ADC. And if you want any links to this, just message me. ADC stands for antidepressive Chinese formula. Okay, so that is a particular group of Chinese herbs that are meant to increase the fire, okay, to raise up the mood. There's also a milk thistle combo situation, and that is one that also builds up the liver, takes out the metals, and lifts up the moods. And again, I could sit here and tell you stories for another couple hours of clients over the years that their life has been changed, just by changing, their liver. And when you feel better, then maybe you'll start to do other things. Maybe you'll start to do, more health habits, because you'll have the physical and mental energy, to do that. Now, yoga will absolutely change your life. It will change your life mentally and physically. You can go to Gaia.com, GAIA.com, 99 cents for the month. Unlimited meditation, unlimited yoga, and all. It's like a spiritual channel like Netflix, but for personal health. Give it a whirl. 99 cents for the first month, but I highly, highly recommend that. Exercise is better than any antidepressant on the market. Exercise raises your serotonin. Serotonin is a feel-good. So even if you feel crappy, and even if you're crying, go cry on your treadmill and cry as you walk down the street. Just go move, because you'll probably be crying anywhere, and you might as well move your body and get your chi out of your body. You may want to look into gratitude. I did a whole course on that last year. I did a 4-week gratitude course. Changed my life. Completely changed my life. These are all kind of up-leveling, because I feel like really, really good most all the time, but I want to continue to up-level my life. So, adding in that gratitude to my life that I did actually last May is completely changed my life in this last year. short period of time. You want to be able to eat clean. I did a video on this. It's on the page, how to eat clean and eat green. That is another thing that will absolutely raise how you are feeling physically and emotionally. You want to do a detox. Okay, if you're feeling low, want to build the liver up first. If you're feeling okay, but you don't want the liver to get low, then we want to do a detox, including some metals. Again, send me a message. I'll send you links, and simple. I also wrote a PDF what to expect while you're cleansing. So it's a nice kind of cleansing is not fasting. It's just a very simple way of taking some herbs and some fiber to ask the metals to leave your body. Okay. Getting outside into the sun. Sun increases your serotonin. We talked about that briefly. You may want to consider acupuncture. Acupuncture is another thing that's going to move the chi. When they put in those little teeny little pins, and those smart acupuncture people, they know exactly how to move the energy and get that chi moving within the body. So there's a huge correlation between unstuck energy and also in our moods and how we may be feeling. You may want to consider massage. I know we can't do that right now, I guess, unless you're in Georgia, where they've opened up for massage therapists. Not that I don't know who wants to go be touched by another person like that right now, but massage moves your lymphatic. Lymphatic is where your toxins all go, and it moves it out of your body. So does moving, but massage is another thing that does that. You also want to consider having hormones balanced. I can help you with that. I can to one of the labs so you can have your hormones tested by saliva. These are naturally occurring hormones, not chemical hormones. But if you are over the age of 40 and you are not doing some bioidentical hormones, you are not living your best life. Okay, that's all I'm saying. You can look into some of the books by Suzanne Summers, The Sexy Years, the Forever Young. I mean, she's written wonderful books if you want to learn a little bit about those. We also want to supplement, and always want to supplement. We want to have in our good greens, we want to have in maybe some algae. I take bee pollen and spirulina, and a number of other things, like that. But there's probably 3 different antidepressive herbal formulas, and you just take one a day. It's not like this a big thing, but if you do that with some of your other things in your life, you're really going to start, because life is meant to be enjoyed, isn't it? We are here to enjoy this experience on our life, however long it may be, and nobody knows that, but why not feel the best that you can? I hope I've helped you today. It was really nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on. For those of us here in upstate New York, we are experiencing a nice sunny day and close to 50, and isn't that lovely? So have a great day yourself, and reach out, please, if I can help you in any way. And if you could also leave a comment or leave some love on here, it helps other people to know that, hey, maybe that video was worth watching. So thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.